The Forest of the Doomed. In the small town of Old Mill, there's a legend about the Forest of the Doomed. This forest appears only during the full moon, and they say that if you enter it, there's no way out. The locals avoid it at all costs, but no one knows what lies beyond the mist that cloaks it on those nights. One day, however, the forest appeared in broad daylight. This story began with the disappearance of Ellie, my little sister. She was only 10 when she vanished from our backyard. Her footprints led to the edge of the forest, where nothing but an empty field used to be. Now, there stood grim trees that looked as though they had been growing there for centuries. The police searched for her, but as soon as someone crossed the forest's boundary, they disappeared without a trace. We lost 3 volunteers on the first day. The search was called off after that, but I couldn't just sit idly by. Ellie's voice called to me, echoing in my head every time I got close to the forest. "Help me, Jake." On the second night after her disappearance, I made up my mind. Grabbing a flashlight, a pocket knife, and a water bottle, I stepped over the forest's threshold. The moment I crossed it, the world changed. Everything was shrouded in thick fog, and the air grew heavy, like in a damp cellar. I looked back, but the path was gone. The trees had closed in, as if to block my escape. At first, I could only hear my own breathing. Then whispers began to rise from the trees. The voices said different things. Some called my name, some promised to help find Ellie, while others laughed eerily. I walked deeper into the forest until I reached a small clearing. In the middle stood a decrepit house covered in moss, with its door ajar and a faint light flickering inside. Ellie could be in there. When I stepped inside, time seemed to stop. The wooden walls were covered with strange carvings, faces scratched into the surface. Upstairs, I heard faint, light footsteps, as if someone was walking barefoot on the old wooden boards. "Ellie?" I called out. No answer. As I climbed the creaking staircase, I felt as though the house was breathing. The wood groaned, responding to my every step. In one of the rooms, I found Ellie's doll sitting on the floor next to her hairpin. I reached to pick it up, but a voice behind me stopped me cold. "You came for her, Jake?" The voice was soft, female, but distant, as though it came from another world. I turned around and saw a tall figure cloaked in a dark robe, her face hidden beneath a hood. She raised a hand and pointed to the window. Below, on the clearing, stood Ellie. Her eyes glowed with a strange green light. I ran toward her, but the forest came alive. Branches reached out, grabbing at my arms and legs. The whispers turned into screams. I could see Ellie, but she didn't move, and as I reached her, she vanished like smoke. That's when I realized the forest had lured me in. It didn't want me to save Ellie. It wanted another soul to claim. I shouted and struggled against the branches. At the last moment, the flashlight's beam caught something metallic. It was the knife. Silence. I used it to cut myself free and ran blindly into the fog. I stumbled out of the forest as the mist began to clear, but Ellie wasn't there. No one believed my story, not even when I showed them her hairpin. They said I must have found it on the old trail. Years have passed. The forest disappeared again. But sometimes, I still hear whispers floating through the mist when night falls in town. They call to me, beckoning me back. Ellie is waiting.